The best way to learn English. Alex understood English perfectly when reading or listening. He could follow complex news articles and detailed movie plots without subtitles, yet a strange barrier stood between his thoughts and his spoken words. This internal fluency felt trapped, making conversations daunting and participation in discussions feel impossible. His frustration grew with each missed opportunity to express himself fluently. The ability to comprehend was a strong foundation, but the lack of speaking confidence created a significant hurdle. Alex yearned to articulate his ideas with the same clarity he experienced in his mind. He recognized that understanding alone wasn't enough. True mastery involved active production. This disconnect fueled his desire to bridge the gap and unleash his voice effectively. He often found himself nodding along, formulating perfect responses internally, but then hesitated, fearing mispronunciation or grammatical errors. This self-doubt was a powerful enemy, stifling his natural conversational flow. The desire for confidence wasn't just about speaking English, it was about reclaiming a part of himself that felt suppressed. The advice he frequently heard was to just speak, but that felt like jumping into deep water without knowing how to swim. Alex knew he needed a structured approach, a series of manageable steps to build momentum. He decided to research effective learning strategies, starting from the very basics to overcome his deeply ingrained speaking anxiety. His journey began with small, almost imperceptible steps. He started by silently repeating sentences from movies he watched, focusing on intonation and rhythm. This wasn't speaking aloud yet, but it was an important mental rehearsal, preparing his mouth and mind for the actual act of production, laying a quiet groundwork for future confidence. He realized the crucial role listening played in his comprehension, but now he shifted his focus. It wasn't just about understanding the meaning, it was about dissecting the sounds, the pauses, the natural flow of native speakers. This active listening became a new cornerstone of his learning strategy, a profound revelation. Why must you listen? Because listening is the primary input for language acquisition. It trains your ear to recognize patterns, accents, and the natural rhythm of speech. Without sufficient listening exposure, your brain struggles to produce authentic sounds. It's the foundation upon which effective speaking truly begins to flourish. Improving listening skills involve deliberate practice. Alex started with podcasts designed for English learners, gradually moving to native content like news and documentaries. He made sure to listen actively, not just passively, pausing to repeat phrases and note unfamiliar vocabulary in context, turning passive listening into an active learning tool. He discovered that active listening meant more than just hearing words. It involved paying attention to stress, intonation, and connected speech. He would re-listen to short clips, mimicking the speaker's exact delivery. This intense focus on auditory details was slowly but surely enhancing his perception and preparing him for accurate reproduction. The next crucial step was starting to talk, even if it was just at home. Alex felt awkward at first, talking to himself in his empty room. He began with simple descriptions of objects around him, narrating his daily routine aloud. This was a private space, free from judgment, allowing him to experiment with sounds. Why talk at home? because it removes the pressure of an audience. It allows you to make mistakes freely, to stumble and correct yourself without embarrassment. This safe environment is vital for building initial muscle memory for your mouth and tongue, creating a foundation of comfort before facing real-world interactions. He started by describing his breakfast, then his walk to the kitchen. "I am pouring coffee. This is a black mug. The coffee is hot." These simple sentences, spoken aloud, felt like immense achievements. He wasn't aiming for perfection, only for articulation. Each small sound was a victory against his previous silence. The mirror became his first audience. He would stand in front of it, practicing short monologues, pretending to explain concepts or tell stories. Seeing his own mouth movements helped him correct pronunciation and observe his facial expressions. It transformed a solitary activity into a mini-performance, building initial confidence. Recording himself became another powerful tool. Listening back to his own voice, despite the initial cringe, provided invaluable feedback. He could identify areas for improvement in pronunciation, speed, and intonation that he missed in real time. This objective self-assessment accelerated his progress significantly. He dedicated specific blocks of time each day to English talking practice at home. These sessions weren't about memorizing scripts, they were about free-flowing thoughts, even if disjointed. He learned to embrace the awkwardness, understanding that consistent effort, however small, was paramount to breaking through his speaking barrier. Then came the realization of why you must read English. Reading exposes you to a vast array of vocabulary and complex sentence structures that daily conversations might not provide. It reinforces grammar patterns naturally, expanding your mental library of expressions ready for use in speaking, solidifying your linguistic foundation. Reading for speaking wasn't just about comprehension, it was about internalizing patterns. Alex started reading articles aloud, not just silently. This active reading practice helped connect the written word to spoken sound, improving his fluency and rhythm. He discovered new ways to articulate thoughts previously unknown. He specifically chose materials slightly above his current speaking level, challenging himself with new idioms and phrasal verbs. He kept a notebook for interesting phrases, actively trying to incorporate them into his at-home speaking practice. This deliberate integration ensured that reading directly fueled his verbal growth. English talking practice expanded beyond self-talk. He found online communities where people practiced English together, starting with text chat to gain confidence, then gradually moving to voice messages. These low-pressure interactions were the next step, allowing him to interact with real people in a controlled environment. His first voice message exchanges were nerve-wracking. He spoke slowly, pausing frequently, but he spoke. The relief of being understood, even imperfectly, was immense. This small success fueled his motivation to continue, proving that his home practice was indeed building the necessary foundations for real communication. He learned to embrace mistakes as learning opportunities, not failures. Each stumble in a sentence or mispronounced word became a moment for reflection and improvement, rather than a reason to stop. This shift in mindset was crucial for maintaining momentum and transforming self-criticism into constructive analysis. Confidence wasn't an overnight switch, it was a slow, steady climb. Each successful conversation, no matter how brief or simple, added another brick to his wall of self-assurance. He began to trust his own ability to convey messages, even if they weren't perfectly worded or grammatically flawless. He discovered that the most effective way to learn English speaking was through consistent, deliberate practice. It wasn't about finding a magic bullet, but about showing up every day, making a conscious effort to engage with the language in various forms, especially in active production. His initial fear of judgment gradually diminished as he realized that most people were supportive and understanding. They appreciated his effort and willingness to communicate, rather than scrutinizing every grammatical error. This external validation further boosted his burgeoning self-confidence. Alex started joining online discussion groups related to his hobbies, where the focus was on the topic, not perfect English. This allowed him to engage more naturally, forgetting the pressure of performance and simply participating in meaningful conversations, making language a tool, not an obstacle. He began to notice improvements not just in his speaking fluency but also in his thinking process. He was starting to think in English more frequently, reducing the mental translation step, which further accelerated his response time and conversational agility, making interactions feel more natural. The joy of expressing a complex idea, even if it took a moment to formulate, was incredibly rewarding. It proved to him that his consistent effort was yielding tangible results. He was slowly chipping away at the barrier that once seemed impenetrable, transforming his internal fluency into external reality. His journey highlighted that understanding is crucial, but speaking requires a different kind of muscle memory and courage. It demands active engagement with the language, pushing past comfort zones to produce sounds and sentences, moving from passive reception to active creation, truly owning the language. Alex became an advocate for starting small. He often advised others to narrate their morning routine, or describe what they see outside their window. These simple exercises, done consistently, build foundational comfort and pave the way for more complex spontaneous conversation. He emphasized the importance of mimicking native speakers' pronunciation and intonation. This wasn't about losing his own accent, but about being understood clearly and sounding more natural. He would even shadow podcast hosts, repeating their sentences almost simultaneously, a powerful technique. Listening actively, he reiterated, was not just about understanding words. It was about internalizing the rhythm, the flow, the pauses, and the natural stress patterns of English. This deep listening informed his own speaking, helping him sound more authentic and less robotic, connecting sound to meaning. He also started watching English movies and TV shows without subtitles, pushing himself to rely solely on audio cues. While challenging initially, this immersion significantly improved his ability to process spoken English at native speed, enhancing both his comprehension and his ability to respond quickly. Reading, for Alex, became an indispensable source of advanced vocabulary and idiomatic expressions. He didn't just read for pleasure, he actively sought out new words and phrases, marking them down and then deliberately trying to use them in his daily self-talk or practice sessions, bridging input to output. He joined a local book club that discussed books in English, forcing him to articulate his thoughts on complex themes. This environment pushed him beyond casual conversation, requiring more nuanced and descriptive language, significantly broadening his expressive range and critical thinking in English. The concept of English talking practice evolved from structured exercises to spontaneous interactions. He would actively seek opportunities to speak, whether ordering coffee in English or asking directions from a tourist, embracing every chance to use the language in real-world scenarios. Confidence, he concluded, wasn't a static state but a dynamic process fueled by consistent engagement and small victories. Each time he successfully conveyed a message, no matter how simple, his self-assurance grew, making the next interaction feel a little less intimidating, a positive feedback loop. He learned that fear of making mistakes was the biggest obstacle. Once he accepted that errors were an inevitable part of learning, his anxiety lessened, allowing him to take more risks and experiment with language. This liberation from perfectionism was a major breakthrough. Alex now understood that the best way to learn English speaking was not to wait for perfection, but to start speaking immediately, even if it felt uncomfortable. The act of speaking itself was the most effective teacher, revealing weaknesses and reinforcing strengths directly. He discovered that regular, short bursts of practice were more effective than infrequent, long sessions. 10 minutes of focused speaking practice daily yielded better results than an hour once a week, emphasizing consistency over intensity for building momentum and habit. His journey from understanding to speaking well highlighted the importance of a multifaceted approach. Relying solely on one method, like reading or listening, wouldn't suffice. Integration of all skills, listening, reading, and especially speaking, was essential for holistic language development. He found that connecting with native speakers, even virtually, provided invaluable real-time feedback and exposure to natural speech patterns. These interactions helped him refine his pronunciation and intonation, mimicking authentic communication styles, making his speech more fluid and native-like. The initial awkwardness of talking to himself at home slowly transformed into a comfortable routine. These private sessions became his personal language lab, a space for fearless experimentation with new vocabulary and grammatical structures, refining his expressive capabilities without external pressure. He always reminded himself why he started: to communicate freely, to connect with a wider world, and to express his true self without language barriers. This intrinsic motivation was a powerful force, sustaining him through moments of doubt and frustration, keeping his eyes on the prize. Listening to different accents and dialects broadened his comprehension significantly. He would intentionally seek out diverse English content, from British comedies to Australian news, training his ear to navigate the vast soundscape of global English, improving adaptability. The benefit of reading English extended beyond vocabulary to cultural understanding. Books and articles provided insights into English-speaking societies, enriching his overall grasp of the language and its nuances, making his communication more contextually appropriate and informed. He even started thinking about his dreams in English, a subconscious sign of deep immersion. This natural transition demonstrated how profoundly the language had integrated into his daily mental landscape, blurring the lines between conscious learning and intuitive usage. His advice for anyone struggling was simple: start small, start now, and don't stop. He stressed that progress isn't linear, but every single attempt, no matter how flawed, brings you closer to your goal of confident, fluent English communication, celebrating effort over immediate perfection. Alex's transformation proved that confidence in speaking isn't about being perfect, it's about being willing to try, to make mistakes, and to learn from them. It's about accepting imperfection and celebrating the ability to communicate, however falteringly at first. The fear of embarrassment, he learned, was often far worse than the actual experience. Once he pushed through the initial discomfort, he found immense liberation in simply expressing himself, regardless of how his words might sound to others. Authenticity outweighed flawlessness. He often reflected on his initial struggles, recognizing how far he had come. The silence that once enveloped his English thoughts had been replaced by a growing chorus of articulated words, a testament to his perseverance and the power of consistent, deliberate effort. His ability to understand English had always been strong, but now his speaking was catching up, creating a more balanced linguistic profile. He could not only absorb information but also contribute meaningfully to conversations, a truly empowering evolution in his language journey. The path to fluency wasn't about reaching an end point, but about continuous improvement and enjoyment of the process. Every new word learned, every sentence successfully formed, was a step forward, sustaining his enthusiasm for the ongoing adventure of language mastery. He encouraged others to find their own methods for starting talking at home, whether through journaling aloud, practicing presentations, or even singing along to English songs, emphasizing that creativity in practice makes the process more enjoyable and sustainable. Why you must listen. It provides the essential blueprint for natural speech. Listening attentively allows your brain to absorb correct pronunciation, intonation, and rhythm, forming a crucial internal model for your own spoken output, making your speech sound native-like. Why you must read English. It builds your passive vocabulary and understanding of complex structures, which then become available for active use. Reading broadens your linguistic horizons, equipping you with diverse expressions and advanced grammar to elevate your speaking abilities. The best way to learn English, Alex concluded, involves a holistic approach. Immerse yourself in listening, expand through reading, and actively engage in speaking, starting small and practicing consistently, embracing every interaction as a valuable learning opportunity. His final piece of advice was to cultivate patience and kindness towards oneself. Language learning is a marathon, not a sprint, and celebrating small wins along the way is crucial for maintaining motivation and enjoying the incredible journey of becoming a confident English speaker. He now confidently engages in debates, delivers presentations, and easily connects with people from various backgrounds, all because he decided to take that first terrifying step of speaking, transforming his internal understanding into a vibrant, expressive voice. The transformation was complete. Alex, once silent despite understanding, now speaks English with confidence and fluency, a living example that consistent effort, brave steps, and a positive mindset can truly unlock one's full linguistic potential.